2 years ago, Wall Street wrote Intel's obituary. The CEO was fired. Billions of dollars were gone. Engineers were leaving. The company that had powered every PC and every server on Earth for 50 years was on the edge of collapse. Analysts called it terminal. Investors called it over. And then the phone rang. On the other end, Tim Cook, the CEO of the most valuable company on Earth. What he said next didn't just save Intel, it rewrote the future of American chip manufacturing. On May 8, 2026, Apple and Intel confirmed a preliminary chip-making deal. Intel's stock jumped nearly 14% in a single trading session. Wall Street called it a changing of the guard. But this story isn't about a stock price. It's about how a dying giant clawed its way back from the edge, and why the entire future of American tech now depends on whether they can pull it off. To understand why this deal matters, you need to understand what Intel actually is. Not the brand, not the logo, the physical thing. Intel runs some of the most complex manufacturing operations in human history. Buildings where the air is 1,000 times cleaner than a hospital. Machines that etch patterns onto silicon smaller than a virus. This isn't a software company. This is an industrial empire. Intel was founded in 1968. For 50 years, it was untouchable. Every time the PC industry grew, Intel grew faster. Then, somewhere between 2016 and 2024, something broke, and fixing it required the most unlikely partnership in Silicon Valley history.
Intel's fall didn't happen overnight, it happened decision by decision. For years, Intel made a choice that seemed rational: focus on designing chips and let TSMC in Taiwan handle the most advanced manufacturing. The logic made sense. TSMC was the best, why not use them? But while Intel was outsourcing, TSMC was learning, scaling, advancing, and by the time Intel realized they needed to catch up, they were 2 full generations behind. Then came the AI boom. Nvidia needed TSMC, Apple needed TSMC, Qualcomm needed TSMC. The entire AI revolution was running through one company on one island, and Intel, the American chip giant, was watching from the sidelines. In December 2024, Intel's board made a painful call. CEO Pat Gelsinger, the man who had spent 4 years trying to save the company, was out. His replacement, Lip-Bu Tan, a veteran semiconductor investor known for making hard bets in broken companies. Tan walked into Intel with one mission: stop the bleeding, rebuild the foundry, and find a customer big enough to prove the turnaround was real. He needed a whale, and there was only one whale big enough to matter. Tim Cook didn't call Intel because he was feeling generous. Apple ships over 200 million iPhones every year, plus millions of Macs and iPads. Every single one runs on chips made by TSMC. And TSMC, already under enormous pressure from AI chip demand, was becoming a dangerous single point of failure. Cook had watched what happened to supply chains during the pandemic. He wasn't going to let that happen again. There was another factor nobody is talking about enough. President Trump had made American chip manufacturing a personal mission. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick spent a year meeting Tim Cook, Jensen Huang, and Elon Musk, pressuring them all to do business with Intel. Trump raised it directly with Cook at the White House. For Apple, choosing Intel wasn't just a supply chain decision, it was a geopolitical statement. The deal centers on Intel's 18A process node, its most advanced chip-making technology, built at a new fab in Chandler, Arizona, now in high-volume production. Intel's next node, 18AP, could be ready to scale as soon as next year. For Apple, this isn't about using Intel chips today, it's about having an American-made option ready before they desperately need one. When the deal broke, Intel stock jumped nearly 14% in a single session. Wall Street called it a changing of the guard. For the first time in years, Intel and AMD were rising, while Nvidia, the company that had owned the AI chip narrative for 3 years, was lagging. The story was shifting. And it wasn't just about Intel, it was about something much larger. Right now, 90% of the world's most advanced chips are made in Taiwan. One earthquake, one military incident, one political miscalculation, and the global tech industry freezes. Every AI data center, every smartphone, every autonomous vehicle runs on chips from one island. Intel's revival is America's attempt to change that equation, and Apple just gave that attempt its most credible endorsement. And Intel isn't stopping at 18A. Their 14A node, targeted for 2028, would put them at the absolute cutting edge of chip manufacturing, the same tier as TSMC's best. If they hit that target, Intel won't just be surviving, they'll be competing.
Here's what makes this story remarkable. Intel didn't get saved by a better product. It didn't get saved by a breakthrough technology nobody else had. It got saved by geopolitics, supply chain fear, presidential pressure, and one new CEO willing to make every hard call his predecessor avoided. The lesson isn't about chips, it's about what happens when a company stops being too proud to accept help and becomes just desperate enough to earn it. The real question now is whether Intel can execute. The Apple deal is a lifeline, not a victory. Apple ships 200 million iPhones a year. If Intel's fabs can't deliver at that scale, with that precision, on that timeline, the whole thing unravels. This is the most high-stakes manufacturing contract in American tech history, and Intel knows it. 2 years ago, Wall Street wrote Intel's obituary. Today, Apple is betting its entire supply chain on them. The giant isn't dead. The question is whether the comeback is real or just the last great story of a company that almost made it back. If you want to understand the business wars reshaping our world, the deals, the collapses, the impossible comebacks, subscribe to Silicon Strategy. Every week, we cover the stories that explain why the tech world works the way it does. And trust me, the Intel story is just getting started.